Hey there viewers, it's Charlie, I'm back again, and if you remember my previous review, Robots in the Skies 2001 Optimus Prime, I showed his packaging and, well, I showed something on it. If you remember, I was reading his little bio here, and it mentioned a Transformer called Omega Prime, which is actually the combination between Prime and Magnus. And well, in this video, I shall be constructing Omega Prime using Ultra Magnus and Optimus Prime. So yeah, pretty much no need to look at the figures individually because I've already looked at these guys in separate reviews. So if you want to take a look, at these guys individually, just check out their respective reviews. But we're just gonna get straight on with the transformation. Now with Prime, I find it's easier to start with a standard robot mode instead of a super mode. But I'll show you something that you can do with the trailer section later when we get Omega Prime fully constructed. But to start, let's get to Ultra Magnus first. First of all, rip his legs off as if you're transforming him into his alternate modes. But then something else, you actually have to come in here and open up these little flap bits and actually take his hands off. And these are the only bits you take off. And we'll just put Ultra Magnus' body off to the side again. Now to start, take Ultra Magnus' legs, flip this bit back down, come in here and untap the side section here, and you actually just accordion all this up. Take this section, flip this entire bit around, flip this up, flip this around, flip this up, push that in and tap this into place. So now we have this huge leg bit. Do the same with the other leg. So just unfold everything again. Like so. And we'll attach these onto Optimus after this. So, take these bits, which were Magnus's hands at first. But well, turn the hand around and then just attach this bit onto the side bit of Prime's arm, almost as if you're using the bits that was I can't even speak. But wrap this around Prime's hands, just like how he used the fire knuckle thing in the previous review, if you remember that. But there we go. Then just turn the hand around, so once again he's got giant gauntlets. So now once again, attach this onto, well, turn the fist around first, sorry, but turn this around. Then attach this onto the little pegs on Prime's arms. Fold that around. And I think the thumb bit's supposed to go into Prime's fist to peg it in. Then just fold all this around. And now Prime's got some big gauntlets again. Now as for the leg sections, well, just try and drop Prime's foot into there. Use this peg to go into there. And just, if you can, move this up. And peg that in. Easier said than done, unfortunately, but there we go. Just do the same with the other leg. So drop that in, close that, and then just try and struggle to peg it in. There we go. Next, pull out the arms again and lift the entire section up. And get that out the way. Now, with Ultra Magnus, this is where things get complicated. Well, come in here, untap these and move them back in. Transform the head back to how it was, or just leave it out like so. Take what were the leg connectors and fold them back in. Come in here, try and, well, turn the thing around. Like so. Then just get the wings back to how they were. Take what were the little things that the weapon would plug into. I'm not showing the weapon today, sadly, but take these bits and move them around like so. Try and struggle with the figure. There we go. Take the red wheelbase bit and just lift that up. If you can. There we go. And just try and get these bits out the way. And as you can see, there's some bits here that will plug onto Prime. Although, try and get the head through first so it's out the way. There we go. Now, just attach that onto Prime. Once again, just like with the super mode bit from Prime's review, I'll do this off camera. There we go. Pretty much, Ultra Magnus' main body just drops onto Prime, like how the leather bit of the trailer attached on the Prime for his super mode. But as you can see, he's pretty tall, so time to raise the camera once again. There we go. Now, the last thing to do is come in here and flip this around. And behold, here we have Omega Prime. Oh my god, this figure is... This is how I display Prime and Magnus in their combined form. Because, I mean, this figure just looks badass. I mean, having a look at the figure's legs, because you can't really see them that well right now. we can see that it's pretty much Prime's legs, using Ultra Magnus's legs as boots. Prime's arms, using Magnus's arms as gloves, and Prime himself, using Ultra Magnus's body as, well, a shirt. But yeah, this figure is one of my favorite figures. I mean, having a 360, I'll have to be careful here, but having a 360, we can see Ultra Magnus's backpack here, along with the head just showing. That's how I display it, at least. Because where his arms is dangling there. And for Omega Prime's head, we can see that if my phone will focus, it actually sort of resembles the Supermoto Optimus head. Oh, I would do a comparison, but I want to show something with the actual trailer section later on. But for this figure's articulation, I mean, it's pretty much the same as Prime's articulation. So, of course, the head's, I mean, it's a new head, but it can still swivel around and look up and down. Although the arms still move around. Although this bit does get in the way, so I can't really move up that well, I don't think. He can still T-pose, he can still use his elbows, he still has his legs, still has his waist. Probably can still do the splits, but I'm not taking the risk, because he could probably just fall apart. But that's not all for this figure. If you remember my review on Ultra Magnus, he had a button that let him say stuff like, Ultra Magnus, transform. Well, the button is still there, but if you push onto the button while these guys are combined, if I can find it. Of course, he makes a complete fool out of me, but normally, if you manage to push this down hard enough, if you'll just excuse me. There we go, I've managed to get sorted, because, well, if you manage to get these guys combined correctly, if you push the button, instead of saying Ultra Magnus, transform, he instead says this. So, we have Prime and Magnus announcing their combination. And I think that's amazing. And how it's done is there's two little buttons underneath here that are pushed down when the figure's combined. Although a slight design flaw, in my opinion, is the fact that, well, it doesn't really get pressed down that easily. You have to really apply some force. So often, if you press the button while he's combined, it still says Ultra Magnus Transform. But if you can manage to actually get him... Well, if you actually can get both buttons to be pushed down... And as you can see, the head also lights up, which is amazing. So... that's pretty much it for the Omega Prime figure. Although I still want to show something. If you remember my review on Optimus Prime, well, we had this entire section. If you remember, it just detaches and comes apart. And then it just wraps around Prime's armor, similar to how Ultra Magnus wraps around Prime for Omega Prime. But if we get Omega Prime out of the way, still see him in shot though. Well, there is another use for this. So, if you want to have this guy displayed as Omega Prime, but you don't want to have the back cover of a fire truck on your shelf, Hasbro has got you covered, and Takara, technically. But if you disassemble if you disassemble the trailer section again, of course, easier said than done, but if you can't do it, well, and if you can actually keep this bit on, because you're actually supposed to keep this as one whole section, if you just fold that bit out, I'll just leave that there for now. What you're supposed to do is flip these out again, although this time just have it out like so, like the super mode fingers form little cannons. Second verse, same as the first, if I can even find it. But yeah, just unfold it. Flip it around. If you can. My one's sticking for some reason. I have no idea why it's sticking. I mean, it's an old figure, so there we go. But then just have these like this. Then we have these sections that were the little shoulder things in super mode for Optimus. I think I have this on the wrong way. But what these can do, if I can even find it, because of course it has to get lost, but if you can actually find the thing, well, I can attach on like so. I'll just do the other one off camera quickly. Then with this section, first of all, come in here, take the ladder and just lift that up. Next, have the thing fall apart on you. But attach these onto here, which I'll just do off camera, if you'll excuse me. So, have it like this, where you have what was the Super Mode Gauntlet laid out like so and attached on here. And then have the shoulder thing attached on like so. And then just try and hide the Super Mode head. Then come in here, fold out these bits of the ladder section, move that down, and finally flip out the water cannons. And here we have the base mode for this trailer section. And this is how I display these guys. The trailer bits in its base mode next to Omega Prime himself. So, yeah. That's pretty much all I have to say about this figure. I mean, complaints. Well, I'll just do complaints with Omega Prime himself. My main complaint is the fact that even if you have the thing fully combined, if the little buttons that switch the voice box to the Omega Prime version aren't pressed down correctly, you'll still have the Ultra Magnus version. But if you do manage to get it fully pushed down, just like I showed earlier, that's amazing. another complaint is the base mode for the trailer bit of Optimus Prime can get a little bit confusing to try and do, because often I'm not sure which way it's supposed to go and things can fall off quite easily, but once you manage to do it, it looks pretty cool. So, do I recommend Omega Prime? Well, definitely. I mean, this is such a cool looking combiner. Plus, it was used in the show multiple times. If anything, from what I can remember, the first instance of Omega Prime in the show was just Ultra Magnus trying to get the Matrix from Optimus, because Ultra Magnus was an asshole in the R.I.D. show. But Omega Prime is still one of my favorite combiners of all time. And this is how I displayed my Prime and Magnus figures. So yeah, I'd say if you get one, you should definitely get the other as well to replicate Omega Prime, because, I mean, come on, this guy just looks amazing. There's only so many times I can say that this guy looks amazing without sounding repetitive. So, to avoid sounding like a broken record, let's just end the review here. But yeah, I do recommend both Prime and Magnus just for Omega Prime alone. But well, this has been my review on R.I.D. Omega Prime. And this is Charlie Young, signing off.